if there's any difficulties there. And then Bruno, will be moving on to the second question. And this one might sound familiar in terms of principle, but the question refers to, once again, that in the event of a townhouse complex being sold, right, may the new owner give notice to all the tenants? And that's nice, short and sweet. Bruno?
Sure. So one would have to first determine what lease agreements the tenants are occupying the property under. The general rule is that lease agreements survive the sale of properties. That's the general rule. And there's very few exceptions to that. There are exceptions. Sales and execution, for example, have a certain exception if something happens in a very particular way. But we don't have to get into detail right now on that. If you buy the property privately, you typically would you typically would step into the shoes of the landlord. So this principle is called Huur Gaat Voor Koop, and that basically means that the tenant retains their rights against the landlord, even if it's a different landlord or a new owner, and the landlord, by virtue of that, would also retain their rights and still have obligations towards the tenants. So basically, it's almost a substitution of the landlord by implication of our law. Now, where one can start deviating from things like this, or rather, let's look at different alternatives or different issues that may arise due to this. So first of all, if you buy a property and the contract doesn't disclose that there's tenants on the property, or the contract says, for example, that the property is supposed to be given to you, basically vacant, this does give you a right against the seller, because in this instance, the seller hasn't actually performed in terms of the contract or gave a warranty that he wasn't supposed to give. And because of that, you do have recourse against the seller. Another example, for instance, if the lease agreements were month-to-month lease agreements, in that instance, yes, you can give notice, because it's just because you've taken over ownership of the property doesn't mean that the terms, in fact, the terms of the lease agreement don't change. So if it's a month-to-month lease agreement and, typically it's acceptable to give 1 month's notice for tenants to move out, then yes, you're okay. You can give 1 month's notice. My suggestion is you need to go back to the seller and you need to clarify with the seller what the terms of the agreement with the tenants were. And then you need to basically follow your rights in terms of those agreements.
Absolutely. So thank you very much. I do think this question is actually one of our most dealt with questions on our channel. So I would definitely encourage people to actually go back and view all the questions regarding this specific scenario. Also mandates, managing agents, and procurement fees. There's also quite a couple of videos on our channel regarding that. So please do go back and watch those videos. We do have a final